Welcome to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I'm Renee, your host of this podcast, and I'm super excited you're here. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about something that has to do with impulse control. And impulse control is one of those things that people with ADHD can struggle with in a lot of ways. uh, Spending money, moving around, blurting out answers. That's more like school when you need an answer, or just blurting out in a conversation when it's not the appropriate time. Uh, there's a lot of ways, but today I'm going to talk more about that last one, which is interrupting other people. I imagine you've probably been disrupted before, that you've been talking in a conversation or talking just to one person. I guess a conversation can just be with one person or in a group of people, and you're just starting to say something, or you're telling a story or telling about an experience or describing something, and somebody just jumps in and says something that breaks up your story, and you just think, I didn't get to finish here, and you just kind of think, oh, and sometimes that happens accidentally. Like if somebody walks up to a group and they might say something to somebody and that breaks it up, which is kind of uncomfortable. If you're the person walking toward people and you think, oh, I want to go sit down by them, but I don't want to interrupt. And sometimes just walking up causes one person to turn and talk to you, and then that disrupts, even though you weren't trying to do it. So there are ways to try to avoid it. Sometimes it happens without people having impulse control problems, but a lot of times it is just somebody wanting to jump in or somebody not interested. Have you ever felt that way before? When you're talking, so this happened twice in the last week. So it was just on my mind today. And in both instances, I'd be telling them something about something, chiming in to the conversation. I'll just give you a scenario. I'm sure you've had these things happen too. But I met somebody, found out where she was from, and I said, oh, I went there before. And then she was telling me, I asked her some questions. I want to learn about her. And she tells me how long she's lived there, tells me multiple stories about it and stuff. And I say, well, I had an experience once there and it was crazy. And I start telling this story, which is quite engaging. I think it's the only time that I truly thought, like, and my husband and I talked about it today. I'm 100% sure that this person wanted to kill me. So I'm laughing now, but truly, middle of the night, scary scene at an old gas station. My husband and I were just going out then. We weren't married, and he got the same feeling. And anyway, it turned into this whole story. And so I started to tell her about it, and it wasn't like I'd gone on for so long that she was thinking it was too long. I didn't even get very far. And she just cut me off and said, "Oh yeah, and if you'd known me then that you could have stayed at my house," or something, something kind of really weirdly not related or something like that. I don't know. And then I thought, oh yeah, that would have been nice. And then I tried to get back to the story, but she clearly wasn't interested. And then she started telling me other things. And when you just kind of give up. And it's not like we have to always be able to tell our story, but sometimes, especially when we have ADHD, we have this desire to share, and especially as this experience is a pretty good one that most people like hearing, like, oh, wow, that is so crazy. Yeah, that was crazy, that kind of thing. And I do respect that not everybody's going to want to hear everything, but it doesn't feel great to be interrupted, and I recognize that. And it happened multiple times, whether I was trying to tell a story or I was just commenting a little bit about it, this or that. And I just recognized when she didn't have that control. She didn't have the control of her impulse to just talk when somebody else was talking. And I know I've done the same thing, but I noticed it in her. And then recently that happened again. And it was another person, and it was actually a friend. And it was really distracting because she would jump around thinking that what she was saying related to what she was just saying, and it didn't. And I'd get so lost, and then I'd ask questions, and then she'd start to tell me the answer, but she'd jump again, and then I try to jump in. I know this is boring. I know this is boring, me trying to describe a conversation, but you know what that's like? It's just not fulfilling. And when that happens to me and I can really recognize it in someone else, and I can even see ADHD tendencies in them, I think I know what's happening for them. I know that they love reliving a story. They love being able to tell somebody else something. They love being able to share, and their minds jump around like crazy. And sometimes they don't even realize when that's happening. I think I at least realize it when that's happening. Like, when like you're on a train, you go down a different track, and all of a sudden you realize I was on that track over there. I don't know if I can get back. I have at least that much self-awareness of I really got far off track here. And at that point, maybe it's too far gone to go back. But I have talked to people who don't have that awareness. Do you have that awareness? Do you ever do that? And do you notice when, oh gosh, I've gotten so off track right here. What was I talking about? Let me go back to that. And depending on who you're talking to, you can sense whether it's just enough, you've already said enough, or if maybe you should just let go of that. And when you have a deep need to share, it is really having to let go of it. It's not simple all the time. Sometimes it feels a little empty. It feels a little, unfulfilling, but sometimes we have to do that. And honestly, when I'm talking to you, I have to remember that I'm in good company, that I'm talking to other women with ADHD, because sometimes when I'm describing things to you, I think, I'm getting this out into the world. Like, people who don't experience this may think like I'm a crazy person, and maybe they do. But really, we know we're not, right? We know we're not crazy. We know we have ADHD. We know the reason that we do things differently, think things differently, have different desires, have different impulses. So I so appreciate being able to talk to you and know that maybe you don't relate to everything that I talk about or that I experience, but I think you relate to a lot of it. And I'm really glad that we can come together and, have conversations. It might seem one sided right now, but I can picture you here. I can picture you here nodding and going through something in your head that you can relate to. And that makes me really happy because it feels good to feel connected to somebody else that has a similar experience, especially when a lot of people in your life don't. So I'm glad we're here together. But okay, so maybe you've been interrupted. Maybe it really bothers you. It bothers me sometimes. And I'm more forgiving of people who I know do it more because they have an impulse control problem than I am for somebody who just isn't interested in me. I don't know if that even makes sense, but anyway, not that you need to hear who I'm forgiving of or not, but back to us, back to me and you as the person doing the interrupting. Probably happens, right? So, are you aware of of your impulse to interrupt people before it happens, while it happens, after it happens? Are you even aware on your own, or are you only aware because somebody else tells you that? And I don't think I've ever had anybody tell me that. So I've probably been surrounded by good people, forgiving people. But I have seen in Facebook groups with women with ADHD that there are a lot of women who say that they're told by a friend, they're told by a spouse, a boyfriend, somebody in their life that they don't like how they interrupt them all the time. They don't like them stopping the conversation or talking more than they want them to, and that sort of thing. And usually in those conversations, I'll see a lot of support for the person with ADHD, dump the boyfriend and stuff like that. Which I don't know, the boyfriend, maybe that does need to happen. I don't know. But I think we can manage more than we think we can. And there's always, we should at least try. That's what I want to say. Maybe there's not always the ability to improve, but I have a feeling we can improve even in just a little bit. And the only reason I'm hesitating on that is because I have read that one of the results or symptoms of executive dysfunction that comes with ADHD is lack of self awareness. But we're women. We're women. So maybe we're more self aware. Maybe we have an edge on that. I'm curious. Do you have that self awareness? Because I do. I do. I notice when I'm dying to jump into a conversation. I notice when I blurted before I've even thought about jumping in. And I've noticed afterwards. So I have that awareness. And teaching yoga has been really, really great for me because, and I didn't know this would happen when I taught yoga, but did you notice how I interrupt my sentences to give you details? I can interrupt myself. That's fine. But teaching yoga has been wonderful at self awareness of talking because when I teach a class, and let's say it's an hour class, most of my classes are an hour long. And I, when I teach that class, it's like I get to talk for an hour without anybody else talking. I didn't know that was going to be the case when I decided to become a yoga teacher. I just wanted to share whatever was happening with my own understanding of myself when I was doing yoga, all that enlightenment. I know different people think of enlightenment in different ways, but for me, I was connecting dots. When I was on that mat, I was connecting dots because I was really exploring my thoughts. I was exploring how I felt. And I was just making all these parallels with that into the rest of my day, into the rest of my week, into the rest of my life. And I thought, this is so cool. I want to share this with other people. And when I actually started teaching yoga in like to get paid for it, not just here or there, like I did for about 10 years, just volunteering to do it for fun. When I started doing it multiple times a week, I started realizing you are meeting new people, you're in this group, you're talking, and they're listening, and they want to hear things, but they don't want to hear things all the time. They're here to get some rest. They're here to learn how to do yoga. They're here to learn how to relax, but they also need some silent space without you talking. And I did pretty well with that at the beginning, I think. And I also, you know, talk and share little here and there things, personality, that's what we get to do if we want to. And you feel like those people who like that can come, and those people who don't, may find another teacher that they like better, and that's fine. But it wasn't until I taught the firefighters who are there to really relax. I taught them while they were on their 48-hour shift, and I'd come in, teach them yoga for an hour, and sometimes they get called out in the middle of it. And sometimes I'd wait and they'd come back, and that was great. And other times they weren't able to come back. But anyway, the first time I taught them, they told my friend who started the Fireflex yoga program, little plug for her, and she was in charge of the program and was opening it at different fire departments in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. And they told her, they gave her feedback. We really like Renee, but she's talking too much and we need some time just to have it be quiet. And I remember being so excited to share with them all these little details, all these little things about yoga that I just got I just got too hyped up. I don't think I was, like high energy, but I just never stopped talking. Oh, and then there's this. I was taking all the information that I could share within a month or a year, and I was trying to put it in that hour because it was, like I'd made all this food and I want you to eat all of it. And they couldn't eat all of it. They didn't need all of it. It was too much. And I think the other reason it happened to them and to nobody else is because the other classes had music. I used music and I love using all kinds of music. To me, it adds a lot. And a lot of people love the music in my classes. So yay for that, Some people haven't and they went and found somebody else. But with the firefighters, we didn't play music. We kept it quiet and they listened for their scanner. So if the scanner made their certain tones or whatever it was, they knew this is my shift. This is my, you know, uh, station. They had different stations. There could be like three different stations in one class, and they knew the sound of that and if they were getting called out or not. So they were listening for that. They were listening for that information. And we didn't have music. So it was the first time I taught with no music, and I just had open air space. And I think I was filling it in a little extra. After that, I was really aware of how often I talked, what I was saying, and I would listen sometimes like, have I said that a lot lately? And I think in my mind of a different way to say it. Or I think, yeah, I feel like sharing this, but should I? And I'd stop myself. Or other times I think, no, I think you should share it. And it was really cool because a lot of those times someone would come up and say, I really liked that you said that because blah, 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 that you shared this about your grandmother. And because my grandmother, it was a way to connect and it enhanced their yoga class experience and didn't distract. Yeah. So it has helped me. And one of the things that I learned, it was actually a workshop about what you say when you teach a yoga class. I don't know if you have some area of your life that you keep learning about. And yoga has been the one for me the past 10 plus years. I thought I could take a course and then I'd know so much, I'd just go. But what happened is I wanted to learn more and more and more. So I was, taking webinars left and right and workshops and courses and all this stuff. And one of them was about how much we should talk and what we should say. And I didn't agree with everything she said. She was saying use the least amount of words possible. Like she would say, don't say, raise your arms up to the sky. She'd say, lift your arms, like minimize the words, say as few words that communicate the best. So that was her mode. And that I think of her sometimes when I say lift your arms instead of sweep your arms up to to the sky. But she also said this acronym. She gave us this acronym, and I always remembered it. So I learned something from her, even though I don't remember who she is, so I can't credit her. But she had an acronym that was WAIT, WAIT, and it stood for Why Am I Talking? And I've used that a lot. I've used that a lot. Not every bit of every class, but when I have a moment of, should I share this or not? I think, why am I talking? Is this going to help them or is it going to distract? And I can use that in the rest of my life too. I may not think it through. Why am I talking? But I might think, is this going to add to the conversation? Is it going to take away from what the person is wanting to share? Is it going to help us get to know each other better? Or if you're in a group setting and you want to raise your hand or participate in some way, I mean, not that you have to overthink everything, right? You're not all teaching yoga classes. But if there are moments you're in a big gathering and you start to notice, I'm doing most of the talking, or a lot of the talking, or some of these people aren't getting a chance to talk as much, just sitting back and waiting and evaluating that. And maybe it's not a matter of why am I talking, but should I? Should I take a little break? Should I turn the attention to someone else? Is there a way I can help someone else feel important here? And that's a great awareness to have. It's a great awareness to have. So let's go back to conversations because that's something that we have. And it's really interesting because, people say you learn from being a parent, you learn from your kids. But when you find out that your child has ADHD after you found out that you have ADHD, actually, I found out he had it before, but after you find out or discover that you have ADHD and put the pieces together and recognize that interrupting impulse control, wanting to participate in a conversation can appear like arguing. I'm just laughing because that's what I would think a lot. I just think my teenage son, he likes to argue. He likes to debate. And he wasn't. He was participating in the conversation. And and as the mom, I think I had this entitlement to he should be listening to me equally. So that's why it seemed more like a debate or 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 an argument. That really helped me see because I've always had conversations where with people where we jump in and say, "Oh yeah, that's like when, I did that in third grade too." And you did? And then we go back and forth, and that's how we connect and we have fun doing that. And when I realize that that can happen in other ways, of pointing out something that maybe you don't agree with or that doesn't make sense to you in the middle of them talking about it, that that interruption may not be as welcomed, or at least maybe so quickly. Maybe you wait a bit longer, let them complete their thought, and and actually, then you may even learn. You see it a little differently because you've actually heard the whole sentence, or the whole paragraph. Do you do that? So I also do that when I read emails or texts or things like that. I guess this is a tendency there too to pick out some information and make a conclusion. And I have to be really careful because I respond to text sometimes or an email and I'm not getting the whole thing. I'm jumping in before I've let them complete their conversation because I didn't actually read the whole thing. So, oh my goodness. Yeah, this life we lead, right? So, anyway, all I'm hoping to do today is just help you look at it a bit yourself and see if there is the ability to have some self awareness there, if there is the ability to pause just a little bit and evaluate if it's the best thing in that conversation or with that person or in that setting. And it's not like you need to be micromanaging everything you do. You don't want to take the joy out of your conversations, but you also don't want other people to feel frustrated. And in both those conversations that I mentioned that happened in the past week, it became frustrating, became a little exhausting. And and I don't want people walking away from me feeling that way, you know? You just don't. But just on the flip side, this is just a fun little scenario. Have you ever met anyone in real life? Are you a sharer with strangers? I'm a sharer with strangers. Not every stranger, but like with people I've never met before. I like connecting with them too if I can. And I've always been somebody that has conversations with people at the checkout counter at the store. If they're standing there checking out my groceries or at TJ Maxx or wherever, I might ask them a question, oh, does it get pretty busy at Christmas time? I'll just, I'm, I'm seeking some conversation and I enjoy that. And sometimes I share something with them, oh, I really like this blanket, but I had another one a lot like it and the other one matched better. So why I do that, who knows? Might be ADHD, probably, but I do that. And most of the time you're not at the counter that long that it really matters. And my hope is that it makes their day go by a little faster. Somebody talked to him, somebody was interested or something. But there was one time I went to this store. It's called Eureka Natural Foods. And it's a store that opened in the town that I lived in for 15 years. And I was so excited to hear that the people in that town got that store because when I lived there, Eureka Natural Foods was only in Eureka, which was a half hour away. And when I first moved there, I'm just laughing because you may not be as interested in something that was so meaningful to me. But when I first moved there, Eureka Natural Foods was a tiny health food store. And there was a bigger health food store. There were two bigger health food stores. One was kind of medium and one was really big. But I loved Eureka Natural Foods. I liked that it was cozy. I liked that it was little and it was close to Costco. So I would go to Costco, buy all the bulk stuff there that I needed. And back then, you didn't get healthy food, organic food from Costco. They didn't, hop on that wave yet back then. So I'd go to Costco, get that. And then I'd go to the tiny Eureka Natural Foods and I'd walk around. I'd pretty much just look for whatever was on sale that I liked and buy that because everything at the health food store was expensive. But I had my favorite things and I loved going there. It was cozy, it was kind of dark, and it was just part of my memory of that phase of my life for 5+ years. And then they built across the parking lot a huge Eureka Natural Foods, and it was beautiful. It had those polished cement floors, and it smelled nice. And they had, you know, like redwood trees engraved on their sign, and it was just a lovely experience. And I was excited about it. And yet I would look back across the parking lot to the old Eureka Natural Foods and think, I remember when you were there and I was with you. And it was just part of my life. And I even bought a water bottle that had, like when they put a sticker on it or something. I don't know, that said Eureka Natural Foods. And I saved up my money. It was like $18 for this water bottle before people were all buying expensive water bottles. But it was meaningful to me in my life. That was something that I saved up my money to get. And I still went to that Eureka Natural Foods the last however many years we lived there. And then we moved away. And years later, probably 10 years later, I go back and my friend told me they opened one in our town. And I thought, that is so cool. So I went in to buy some things and it had a similar feel as the big one in Eureka. And I walked around and, thought it has the same smell, it has a similar feel, and I'm so happy for the people here who get this store. So I go up to the register and it's probably like a teenage girl in high school, has got her high school job, not super interested in her job, but she wasn't doing anything wrong. But I said, hi, and she's checking out my groceries. And so I start telling her, this is so cool that you have this store. I used to go to Eureka Natural Foods when it was tiny in Eureka, when they didn't even have that big store. So I start telling her the story. And I can see, because I do have some self-awareness. I realize this at the moment. I have self-awareness. And I notice that she does not want to hear this story. But for some reason, I thought it was funny. I thought it was amusing just to see her eyes glaze and just kind of look and, almost shake her head, but not really, but just have the look on her face like she was shaking her head, like, why is she telling me this? I'm not interested in this. And it was just amusing to me. And I didn't do it for very long. It wasn't like I was punishing her or anything, but it just made me laugh. And afterwards, someone said, what is it like to be you? And you and your friend, actually the friend I was sharing, staying with there, about a year later, he was saying, you both can just talk and talk in conversations. What's it like to be you? I don't like to to talk in conversations. And I said, oh, sometimes I even do when I know the person doesn't want to hear it. He said, what? And so I told him the story, and he's just like, I can't believe you did that. I never would do that. I would take that signal. And I thought, I saw the signal, but I didn't take it. Anyway, maybe you can do that just for fun. I don't think it hurt her. I think it's harmless, but we got to entertain ourselves sometimes when we have self-awareness, when we love to talk, when we have the impulse to share. And anyway, that's it. I think that's it for today. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. I am working on my little mini course. I'm calling it, I can't decide what to call it. So it's either a 5-day mini course or a 5-day challenge, but it's actually both. So whatever you think, I want a challenge, I need a challenge to be able to do something in 5 days. Or if you think, I like the idea of a small course where each day I do a little something. And what do you get to learn? To have better focus, to have that better focus. And part of that is recognizing your distractions, minimizing your distractions, managing your distractions. And I'm going to walk through that with you each day if you want to join this challenge. It's not going to be a live challenge where everyone has to do it all at the same time. It's going to be available to start on a Monday because we all know Mondays are the best days to start something. And I'll send you an email each day with a little video that says, this is what you're going to do today. It'll be a little more detailed than that, but I'll walk you through the steps and I'll give you some tasks. You should be able to do it each day in under 30 minutes. You can spend more time if you want, but that should be it. And by the end of the week, you will have developed a new framework for managing distractions and focusing better. You can apply it to anything. You can apply it to anything that you want to do. And I'll even have caveats for distractions that can't go away. So that's what managing the distraction is, or getting really strategic. Because I know sometimes some things you just can't stop from happening. So anyway, I'm excited. Go to my website, reneeallen.com, with a dash between Renee and Allen, and look for it. I'm still in the process of setting everything up, but I'm almost done, so it should be up pretty soon. But thank you for being here. I'll see you again. Bye.
Double chins, rubber ducks, squeaky cheese and paper cups, applesauce, Superman, rocket ships and Peter Pan, boogie boards and parachutes and soda cans, jumping jacks and pillowcases for my hands, Donald Duck and fire trucks and Pokemon, Santa Claus and Johnny Depp and Donkey Kong, chocolate chips and zipper zips and 914, little children jumping on the trampoline, model trains and passing lanes and super glue, tangerines and magazines and kangaroo.
Oh yeah. Daily Rock.
Rewind, I've run out of time to sing melodies and harmonies. I'm cut short. The silence of sound has yet been found, but not by me. I buttered my toast, spread on some grape jelly. I don't mean to boast, but I'm a chef and a good one. My grandma can't hear me. The breakfast is done. Ever getting colder, ever older, so I run. Open windows, broken shadows. Frozen dreams are left for tomorrow. Without a cause, no time for a pause. Rewind, I've run out of time to sing melodies and harmonies. I'm cut short. The silence of sound has yet been found, but not by me.